Welcome back to Lessons in Attachment. Today we are going to be looking at a technique that you can use when you're experiencing a trigger. So your anxiety has been activated, and there's so many different techniques around this, but this is one that I give clients or I use inside my containers that I find can be really useful for a short-term relief. So not necessarily something that needs you to put loads of thought into it, but you need to calm down when you're overwhelmed with emotion and basically to put a pause between you and your reaction. So this is the shift or spiral technique that I'm going to walk through with you today. But before we do that, let's think about what a trigger is. This is something that happens that then sparks off a deep and intense emotional reaction. And most likely you're going to feel quite out of control when this happens. If it's your anxious attachment, it can literally leave you feeling like you don't have much control over your thoughts, your actions, and how you're feeling. It might include something like a comment where you feel criticized, someone has gone quiet on you, you've heard or you've seen something on social media, and suddenly there is this reaction. So in those moments, what we really want to help you to do is to be able to put in a pause. Chances are that right now, because you're watching this, you have reactions, automatic reactions that are unhelpful. Maybe you do things that you later regret, or they lead to upset, they lead to more stress than is necessary. And I will talk about in another episode, which I'll link here, like how you can know when it is your anxious attachment, when it is your anxiety rather than a response to this situation. Just before we go on, I'm going to take a moment to introduce myself. So I'm Carly Ann. I am a qualified somatic attachment coach and a trainee psychotherapist. I'm the founder of the Attachment Recovery Gym, which is the ideal place if you have an anxious attachment style. If you're anxious about relationships and you're in your healing and learning era, this is the best place to be. You'll hear me refer to the Attachment Recovery Gym throughout the episodes. It is an online membership and it is full of resources, workshops, meditations, and tools that are all focused on helping people that lean towards an anxious attachment. For anxious attachment, the chances are that this trigger is being perceived as a real threat. So it really feels like your relationship status is in danger, or it feels like there is a threat to your self-worth. So you may be feeling like this is going to prove that you're not good enough. This is going to prove that nobody likes you. This is going to prove something negative about yourself. In these times, this is when the anxiety can be even more overwhelming. And again, we go into that reactive state. So if you're falling into any of that, then let's think about the shift or spiral technique. Something I have done for you is I've created a document that outlines this technique. So you can screenshot that, you can save it to your phone. It just means that then you've got easy access to it, especially when you're triggered, because that's really a time when we can forget these things. You're really going to want to practice this each time you're experiencing a trigger. And the other thing I would say about this technique to make it more effective is you don't just have to practice it when you're in that moment, of distress. In fact, one of the best ways that you're going to get results is if you practice these steps when you're not activated. So when you're actually quite calm, because then you're going to be more likely to use it in those intense moments when something's happened that's upset you. The shift or spiral technique basically is an acronym of shift. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to need to spot that you're triggered. So you really need to know what are those first warning signs that you have been activated. And for some people, this is going to be that you're suddenly going to have this thought of it's happening again. You're going to have this sudden thought of nobody likes me, or you're going to feel it in your body. So it might be that knot in your stomach. It might be that you're shaking, your heart is pounding. There's going to be something that happens for you that's one of the first signs that you're triggered. Now, just to step back a moment, it may well be that you need to do some looking into that, some self-exploration. so that you can figure out what is the first sign for me. So if you are a member of the Attachment Recovery Gym, I would recommend using the 5 prompts for this. So go to the resources and use the 5 prompts. And over time, you're going to then be able to spot what your first sign is. If you're not in the gym, that's absolutely fine. You can, from this moment on, just keep like a diary, keep a record. You'll need to reflect on the times that you're triggered, and then you're going to start to see quite quickly what is the first sign for you. So then we come back to a moment when we're triggered. And when you notice this sign, so let's say for me, it's like my face gets a little bit tingly. When that happens, rather than continue on the path that you're on, rather than continue following the thoughts that I'm having, I need to acknowledge, okay, it's happening. I'm noticing that I'm triggered. And you can use language like that. I'm noticing now that I'm triggered. This is exactly what Carly Ann was talking about in that video. So that's going to be the first sign. You're going to spot that you're in it, and you're going to repeat that to yourself. You're just going to say it. The next is you're going to halt. Okay, so H is for halt. I would say at this point, we need to stop and pause for 90 seconds. Now, the stress hormones that are released when you're triggered, they have about 90 seconds to go around your body. When they naturally pass, you're naturally going to calm down. However, that often doesn't happen because we continue to trigger ourselves. We continue to think like really scary thoughts about this situation. We continue to blame ourselves, beat ourselves up, overthink. And so actually it goes way beyond those 90 seconds. So in these 90 seconds, you can set a timer. You actually don't have to do anything. There is no reason why you need to act. Remember, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying not to act just because we're triggered, just because we're feeling something. So you actually could just sit for 90 seconds. It might well feel impossible. So another thing that you can do is you can self-soothe in these 90 seconds. And a great way to do that is to think of your 5 senses. So to go through, what is it I can hear right now? What can I feel? You know, what colors can I see? You just want to go through your senses and self-soothe. You can actually make change yourself. So you could put on some music, you can put some cold water on your face. That's actually been shown to be really effective, cold water on your face. So that's what we're doing for the second step. You're halting for 90 seconds. Might be your biggest challenge, to be honest with you, because your body is going to want to act and do the thing to undo this trigger and to make yourself feel safe again. Next is you're going to take an inner snapshot. So at this point, you need to go inwards. You might have heard this term about going inwards instead of going outwards. I will know that people are starting to really heal their attachment wounds when they're able to notice how they're feeling and the sensations in their body, rather than continue to think and try and work out and figure out what's going on with this trigger. So to go inwards and inspect is to really just notice, what am I feeling in my body right now? What sensations am I noticing? So it's kind of an expansion on the first step where you're just naming that first warning sign. Now you're really giving it some attention. Where do I feel it? What does it feel like? And just to really be with that feeling, be with that sensation. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to change it. It's really just to meet it with a lot of compassion. As an extra at this stage, you can help yourself to unmerge from this feeling. So you can do that actually using language. So that will be things like, I'm noticing that I'm feeling really anxious. I'm noticing that my heart is pounding. I'm noticing that I've got tension in my shoulders. Just using your language to just sort of put a space between you and what you're experiencing. The next step is that you're going to free yourself through visualization. So using your imagination is really, really powerful. And actually, it's possibly your imagination that is really kind of impacting in this moment anyway, because you're likely imagining worst case scenarios, or you're imagining the past and memories and things like that. So this is a way to use your imagination in a more positive way. So this is when you will actually just visualize yourself relaxing. Visualize the thoughts kind of floating off, those unhealthy thoughts or unhelpful thoughts. Just use a visualization techniques. And again, this is in the attachment recovery gym. There's so many techniques, so many meditations in there to help you release and let go of these moments where you're kind of in the grip of your thoughts, the grip of this emotion. And then the last technique is something anxious attachers definitely do not do enough. So it has to be on this technique. And that is to take the time to ask yourself, what do you need? What do I need? I've already calmed down a little bit. And it's really important for you to answer what you need and for you to try and meet that as much as you can until you get to a point where you're calm enough to kind of see things a little bit clearer. Because if what you need is someone else and you need someone else's reassurance, you actually might find that you stay in this loop. So, as much as you can, see if you can take the time to meet your own needs. But you're not going to be able to do that without just simply asking yourself the question, what is something that is going to make me feel better? What is something I need in this moment to help me? And I would say just go for 1%. What's going to help you to feel 1% better? You don't have to feel really happy right now. You don't have to feel really calm. That might even be impossible in this moment, depending on the trigger. It's just what is going to be 1% better than I was 90 seconds ago. That's what I would really be thinking about at this stage. And remember, this isn't about healing the past, this isn't about getting to the root cause. This is about getting through this trigger. Sometimes that's what we need to do. We go on this big hunt for something really, really deep and to heal our inner child, whereas actually just sometimes we need to not act in this moment. So that is the shift or spiral technique that you can use anytime you're triggered. And like I say, I have created a download for you, so you can see that in the description, screenshot it, save it, whatever it is that is going to help you to use it in that moment. Sometimes it's going to work wonders, and other times it might not. It's going to depend on the triggers, it's going to depend on factors, and like how often you've practiced it. It's going to depend on your mood that day. It's going to depend on your stress levels. It's just going to depend on many different factors. But what I would say is the more you practice it, the more you're going to know how it works for you personally. Okay, I hope you have found that useful. Please do like and subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram, which is carly.ann_, where I'm always updating and posting lots more around healing your anxious attachment.